20. And it was due to the fact that the good people of Leeds aren't accessing the screening services that are available. Primarily at the start, it was for bowel, breast and lung. Now, there isn't a national screening service for lung, but there are some walk-in clinics and things. So those were the three we were aiming at. Anyway, as time went on, it was acknowledged that we were missing a trick, really. We were in front of people who would benefit from some cervical and prostate information and advice. So we included them into our contract for some added value. And our part of the whole Leeds Cancer Programme was to get out and about into communities, out anywhere where people are, really. And as you can see from some of these photographs, and just, maybe waylay some of the fears, answer some of the questions, point them in the right direction, just anything we could do to try and encourage them to go along and use that free screening service, because it's fantastic, isn't it? One would wonder, as a project, we do a whole different talk on barriers to cancer screening as well, because one would think that we would have 100% screening attendance. Why wouldn't you, really? You've got this free service where you can get checked out and have peace of mind, and yet we know that we don't. If you just looked at the bowel screening kit, there's only 50% of those get returned. But that's a talk for a different day. So there's myself and Megan, who are both coordinators. Lovely little picture of Megan there. Picture of me in action. And we also rely quite heavily on online volunteers and face-to-face volunteers as well, because Leeds is a big place, and the more people we can get to spread the word, the better, really. So today we're all about breast and cervical cancer screening and signs and symptoms and ways to avoid them. So we're hoping that by the end of it, obviously, you'll have an increased awareness of those services and those conditions, and that you'll understand the key messages around it, what our project tries to share, and hopefully you'll get some, well, I know you will, you'll get some information on websites which are good to find reliable cancer information, because there's a lot of nonsense out there. Social media lends itself to all manner of misinformation getting shared, and you'll just feel more comfortable maybe raising the subject with friends and family, because what you'll find is you will have friends and family who you will just assume that go along for their screenings, and when you get chatting to them, you'll realize that they don't. And we'll kind of touch on some of the reasons why that is, but also we need to be mindful just that if we are having them conversations, we need to be a little kind, don't we? We don't know. You'll be talking to some clever people, educated people, and they'll tell you that they don't go for the cervical. And sometimes, with the best will in the world, we can be a little self-right, a bit like, oh, well, it's well-meaning, but, oh, you really should go. It's really important. You shouldn't miss it. And we don't know their background, do we? We don't know if they've suffered early childhood trauma, if being in that position for a cervical screening triggers is a huge trigger for them because of maybe early abuse and things. So it's just about being reassuring and having that kindness about us. And I'm sure you do. We all work in a similar field, don't we? But just something to bear in mind is that, really, before we kind of jump on them and say, oh, well, you need to do it, it's important. So I'm not going to assume anyone knows anything, because the NHS is a big place and people have all manner of different roles. So if this is all kind of under your knowledge level, I do apologise, but it's better to start at the bottom and work up than go in too high and miss anything out. So you may not know what your cervix is. You may not know what a cervix is. I don't know who's on the call. I certainly don't know fully what my spleen does, if I'm being honest. I know I've got one. I'm pleased that it's working as far as I know. But for those of you that don't know what to show, your cervix is actually part of the female reproductive system. We say female, we are inclusive as well. Anyone with a cervix is part of their reproductive system. And we'll get into the ins and outs of some of the issues around who has a cervix in a little while. And it joins the top of the vagina to the lower part of the womb. So you can just see on that little diagram there where it sits. And it's important, plays an important part in a menstrual cycle, in people's periods, because it will allow blood to leave the body. And if it didn't, we'd be in a real pickle really quite quickly, because that blood wouldn't be able to leave. The situation will get quite serious quite quickly. And cervical discharge, the mucus that's there, is important because it's actually there to help against bacterial infection. Obviously, the vagina is an opening into the body, and the body's really quite clever in what it does and doesn't want inside it. So that mucus there can be slightly antibacterial. So there's a whole issue there sometimes around people, how they kind of wash the vagina and things and use douches and things to do that. And, the thinking is that the science is that you shouldn't do that. Your body will take care of itself in that respect. It knows what it's doing. It's a well-designed machine, really. And of course, during pregnancy, the cervix will close because the menstrual cycle stop, and it will just shut down, close, let everything crack on, and then later on it will open. Obviously, otherwise we'd have a serious issue. So I hope that just fills you in on anything you didn't know there. And who has one? Well, the vast majority of people that have a cervix are women, females, people who are born females. But there are also some trans men and or non-binary people who were assigned female at birth who also have a cervix. And a man who has a difference in sex development or is intersex can also have a cervix. And in rare cases, women who have a difference in sex development or DSD can also have a cervix, or who are intersex, well, they may be born without a cervix. So it can get complicated for some people, as we know, and the whole biology and politics and everything else around trans and non-binary and so on and so forth is still being thrashed out. But if someone's had surgery such as a hysterectomy, that may mean that the cervix has to come out along with some of the other reproductive organs. So if someone's not sure whether they've got one or not, as always, as I'll always go back to, have a chat with the GP. Most people will know. Most people will know if they've got a cervix. But if people are unsure, I know Megan, my co-worker, was talking to a trans man yesterday. Well, a man. I don't even like the term trans now because this person had gone from female to male. But they were asking still about how that works with regards to getting their cervical screening, because they are they will have to go on and request it now. So, cervical cancer. As with any cancer, it's abnormal cells. For those that aren't too sure, cancer's really rogue cells. There's mutations in your DNA that normally control the life and death cycle of cells. And you might have heard that, we're shedding millions of cells every day. There's that awful little thing that they say most household dust is probably skin cells that we're shedding. And I remember hearing when I was younger that we completely change as cells every 7 years, something like that, if you've ever heard that, which always made me wonder about tattoos. But yeah, we're always shedding, we're always getting, and cells are living and dying all the time. And what happens is those cells go rogue and they stop listening to what they should be doing, and they kind of encourage other cells to go the same way. And over time, those cells gather into a clump, or a lump if you like, which is the beginnings of a tumor, and then away that goes. And cervical cancer is just when this is occurring in the cervix. So there's about 3,200 women and people with a cervix. I'll change that for the next presentation there, that are diagnosed with cervical cancer in the UK each year. So, there's about 60 million in the UK. So people might think, well, that's a relatively low number, but not for those that get cancer. It's life-changing for those that do, if it's late-stage diagnosis. And it's about 14th. These numbers ebb and flow a little bit, but as we sit here today, it's about the 14th most common cancer. Just if you're interested, the four big hitters are prostate, breast, lung, and bowel. So prostate cancer has the dubious accolade of being the most commonly diagnosed cancer in the UK at the moment. And it's more common in younger women and people with a cervix than older. Certain cancers tend to affect people at different ages, and we know that anyone can develop cancer at any stage in their life. I used to work on the children's cancer unit and the teenage cancer unit as well, so I've witnessed firsthand that occurring. But in general, the general trends are that cervical cancer tends to affect younger people. Bowel cancer tends to affect older people. Testicular tends to affect younger people. So yeah, and that's one of the reasons that the screening starts younger rather than with something like, say, breast cancer or breast screening, which starts at 50, or the bowel screening starts at 60, whereas cervical starts at 25, as you'll see in a little while. So the main cause is persistent human, I guess sometimes pronounce this wrong, papillomavirus, human papillomavirus, or papillomavirus is might be the correct intonation, and it's the leading cause of cervical cancer, and it's very common, and it's something that you can pick up, and your immune system will clock it and deal with it, and you'll have no problems, and you'll move on. And it tends to be picked up through intimate contact, through penetrative sexual acts. So they found one of the reasons that they discovered about the virus was that nuns had an incredibly low presentation rate for cervical cancer. So somebody started thinking, well, why would this be? And that's one of the ways in which the virus was picked up on. So a little video for you, because you don't just want to listen to me all day about the virus.
HPV is also known as the human papillomavirus. It's a very common virus that lots of people have. HPV is different to HIV. HPV usually does not cause any harm, but sometimes HPV can cause cervical cancer in women. Both men and women can have HPV. Boys and girls are offered an HPV vaccine in secondary school. This vaccine can help stop some types of cancer from happening. HPV doesn't have any symptoms, so people don't know they have the virus. HPV is usually passed from one person to another by having sex, touching each other in the genital area, underneath your pants, sharing sex toys. In most cases, HPV goes away by itself after a while, but in some cases, HPV can stay in your body and cause the cells in your cervix to turn bad. The bad cells can lead to cervical cancer. When you go for cervical screening or a smear test, they will check for HPV in your body. Having HPV in your body means you'll be checked more often to make sure you're healthy. Lots of healthy people have HPV. If you have HPV, it doesn't mean you will get cancer. If you're worried about HPV, you can speak to your nurse or doctor or visit these websites. Just Trust, NHS.
There we go. Who doesn't trust a nice Scottish lilt? Hey, you could tell me anything there. So, signs and symptoms you might be looking out for with cervical cancer. Any unusual bleeding. Normally, we live in these bodies every day, and we tend to be quite regular in a lot of the things that we do and that they do. So unless you've changed your contraception or you are on some kind of really quite extreme diet, or you're intensely exercising, normally in general people are quite regular with regards to their cycles. So if you finished your period 10 days ago and then you find some breakthrough bleeding, then yeah, we would want to know. We're not saying none of these mean it's cancer, but we'd want to know why that was. We'd want to know why you just suddenly out of the blue started to have some breakthrough bleeding. Also, another one can be pain during sexual intercourse. Something that wasn't hurting, 4 or 5 weeks ago, is now starting to feel uncomfortable, and you haven't changed, the whatever it is you're up to. It's your own business. But this is just your normal kind of intercourse that wasn't hurting before, and now is. And this one's a tricky one coming from somebody who's getting older. Pain in your lower back or pelvis. I am a slave to pain in my lower back. I know why it is. It's disc damage when I was younger. But this can be a really difficult one to kind of, pin down. You may be gardening one day and you feel your back's out of sorts or whatever. But the thing about these symptoms are, these are things that are staying with you now. you know, if you pull a little muscle or something, or something's a little out of sorts, then usually that will go away. If this is something that you're kind of living with now, you think, no, do you know, this has been nagging away now the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks. We want to find out what it is. Let's get it checked out. And any changes in any kind of vaginal discharge, any discoloration that somebody notices, or a change in smell or anything like that, where you just think, hang on, all is not well in Dingley Dell, this doesn't seem right, then we would want you to go along and just see what's happening there. And as I say, all of those things can occur for different medical reasons. They don't mean that this is cancerous, but it's about getting checked out. It's about being proactive and getting in early, because a message I will say throughout this is early detection really does save lives. The figures are crazy for catching it early versus advanced. And the screening isn't looking for cancer, it's looking for cell abnormalities. It's a bit of an MOT really for the cervix. It's just making sure everything's ship shape and Bristol fashion down there and things are okay. As I said before, it starts at 25, goes up to 64, and it's every 3 years when you're younger, but that increases um, after 50 up to 64. Now, a lot of people will say, why 25? It should start at 18. You know, let's bring the age down. Well, the reason for that is um, that there are still a lot of changes. We don't really reach full physical maturation until about 25, when everything settles down. So there's still a lot of changes taking place in the cervix, and a lot of hormonal changes and things. People are still developing. So there'd just be a really high number of false flags that would come up. So that's why they leave it. That's why it's 25 and not younger. But a lot of people get annoyed at that, and especially if someone's had cervical cancer in the family and they're worried about it, and they're 19 or 20, and they go along and they ask the doctor or GP if they can have a screening, and they get told no, they can really get quite upset. And people can always pay for it, you know. Private healthcare being what it is, you can get screened every day and twice on Sundays if that's your thing, but you will have to pay for that privately. So, cervical screening top tips. Um, the nurse, whoever's carrying out the procedure, wants this to go as smoothly as possible. It's their day job. You know, all they want is in and out, minimum of fuss for you, nice and easy. So if anyone's got any worries, and we mentioned that earlier, you know, if it's a particular trigger for someone, if you're particularly anxious because of the procedure, you may have had a terrible, the first one you ever went for might have just not gone to plan, wrong size speculum, backward tilting cervix, whatever it might be. Have a chat with them. Have a chat. They will be accommodating. They want it to go okay for you. They do not want you to be all strung out and tense. They want it to be a success. Some people get strung out a little bit about hygiene. They're like, well, I've been at work all day. I've been running myself ragged all day. I don't want to be going after work. You know, I'd rather be sort of shower fresh. Believe me, when we talk to them, they are not judging anybody's floodlit fandango. They are just trying to get it done as easy as possible. But if that's an issue for you that's going to stop you going, we'd say maybe book your first appointment. You know, have a shower, get your work clothes on, go to the appointment, and then go about your day. You can also ask for a longer double appointment if you think that's going to help you. And you can ask, they're not always available, but some surgeries do make them available for maybe an evening or weekend appointment. We know that, you know, if somebody's a single parent with 3 kids and they get an appointment for 3:30 and the children are of school age, what use is that to them? Come on. You know, so if it's an evening time when maybe there's someone else to help with childcare, or on a weekend, then that's sometimes available. And something that a lot of people don't know is you can take a friend or a partner with you, or a friendly partner with you. So, you know, we did a focus group down in Hare Hills, where one of the women said that she would have found her first screening so much easier had she have known that her husband could have gone along and held her hand. Well, he totally could. There's no reason why not. I know COVID's put some restrictions in place over the last couple of years, but now things are opening up. Perfectly reasonable to ask if that's a thing, if that's going to help you go. If any of these are barriers to you going, then have a chat with them, because they want you to go. And we would say, wear something that you feel comfortable in, you know, something loose fitting, sort of yoga pants, or a skirt or something, whatever is going to work for you. Nobody wants to be that patient that's careering around the surgery with a toe stuck in a tight pair of jeans. But you know, whatever's going to work. and you're in control. If something doesn't feel right, I've been told, I haven't had the procedure myself. I don't own a cervix, but I have been told that it can feel slightly uncomfortable, but it shouldn't feel painful. And if it does, then just whoa, something doesn't feel right here. It shouldn't feel like this. This is not what I expect it to feel like. Let them know, and just ask them to stop for a minute. There's also 5 different sizes of speculum, and they will always start with a medium-sized one. So if that doesn't feel comfortable to you, let them know. You're living in that body. You know what it's feeling like. Let them know. For those with English as a second language, an interpreter can be requested. And we would say, ask them about it. A lot of people going. I was talking to a manager at a wellbeing project the other day, and she went for her first cervical, and she came away and she says, Darren, she says, couldn't tell you what they did. Got no idea what went on. If they asked me to draw them a picture of what just occurred, I couldn't. So find out if that helps as well. Kind of own it, I guess, is what we'd say. And then why not have yourself a cheeky little treat? You've just done that thing that you've been putting off. The letter arrived 3 weeks ago and you've been putting it off a little bit, and now you've finally got yourself in there. You've done it. You get that lovely little elated feeling sometimes, don't you, when you've done something that you've been meaning to do. So have a little cheeky treat. Why not? You just done your cervical. So a little video here. Oh, yo, what is occurring? Hang on. That's not right at all. Let me just scroll past this. Oh. Oh, it doesn't seem I want it. Doesn't seem I want it. It had it earlier. Hang on, I look like I'm still on play there, don't I? Just bear with me, would you? No, sorry about that. I looked at this earlier and it was okay. So I don't know why it won't embed that. I shall move on with haste. So after you've been for your screening, 4 weeks later, you should get your results by a letter, and these will be the results. So no HPV found, so that you just continue with your routine screening. You'll just wait, put it behind you. Worry about those other 86 things that you worry about in your daily life, usually when you're in bed, when you should be dropping off to sleep, and put this one behind until you get invited for your next one. They may find HPV, but there's no cell changes found. So you're at high risk HPV, but you don't have any changes in your cervical cells. So what'll happen then? They'll say, "Oh, hello, cheeky, we've just noticed this, so we'll get you back in a year, and just see where that HPV is around." You may also get told that HPV is found and some cell changes are found. If this is the case, in a weird way, great, because we've found it. We've found something's not right. The screenings served its purpose in that respect. Granted, you'll probably worry. It's very hard not to, but you'll get invited in to have some more tests to see what's going on. But that early detection saves lives thing's so true there. If you'd have missed that appointment and just rolled along and not known there was any difference, and a year or two down the line and things that have been allowed to develop. So whilst that's worrying and things, it's still great that something's been discovered, because now we can crack on and get it sorted. And then sometimes the test just doesn't work. It's inadequate. It didn't go as to plan as we'd hoped. So they would do your screening again in 3 months with that. So just segueing into breast cancer. It's more common in women than men. Some men do get breast cancer. They still have the tissue that's capable of that. But it tends to be more common, far more common in women and people with breasts than men. About 55,500. So you compare that to the was it 3,200 for cervical, and you can see there with the numbers 370 for men and 55,500 for women. So 1 in 7, bit of a sobering statistic, really. For prostate cancer, just as a sideline, it's 1 in 8 men and people with a prostate. 1 in 4 if you're black. It's quite a number, isn't it? But for breast cancer, it's 1 in 7. And it can be affected by age, family history, lifestyle factors such as obesity and smoking, which I'll get into in a little while. They reckon that so many cancers can be the risk of them can be minimised if we just follow a few little basic life rules, which I'll talk through a bit further on. So around 15% of all newly diagnosed cancers in the UK are breast cancer. So it's right up there along with prostate for being the most commonly diagnosed. And look at them numbers there. Seriously, you know, with the early detection saves lives. Stage 1, 98% of women and people with breasts survive their cancer for 5+ years, which is when it's like we can kind of live as normal when you're in remission. And that's down to about 25% if found at stage 4. So that getting in early, catching it early is just paramount, really. And here's some of the signs and symptoms you are looking for. Love this, absolutely love this little graphic, this infographic. Because what it does is highlight the big fear that we all have, and understandably so, is that somebody finds a lump. You know, that's what everyone's frightened of with cancer. Oh, I found a lump. But it's any changes. As I said earlier, you know, you live in these bodies every day of your life, and you might be getting dressed in the morning, and you just notice while you're getting dressed that one of your nipples looks slightly out of kilter, or a different colour, or there's a vein now on one of your breasts that's, I don't know, I've just clocked it, you know. That didn't look like that 3 or 4 weeks ago. Now it does. Might be a little bit protruding a little bit more towards the surface of the skin, whatever it might be. Or there may be a dimple where there wasn't before, or orange peel skin, which is a bit like cellulite. I'm sure people have seen photographs and have never witnessed it firsthand, but it looks a little bit like orange peel skin. That can be it. So it can be a lump, a bump, a little skin sore. They can be like, it looks like there's a little nipple crust, which is where fluid's drying, or new fluid, you know, that suddenly you're noticing. You might notice damp patches on underwear and things, anything at all. You know, there can be a hotness. You know, sometimes when you get a little spot coming up and it's like, you know something's on the rise because it feels a little hot. Anything like that, we would say, let's get in and let's get checked out. That one there, if you just look at the bottom, the new shape or size, I always think it looks like one breast that's developed 2 nipples now, 2 smaller breasts on it. I do hope that if you were looking at something like that, you would probably get a wriggle on and go see what's happening with the doctor. But yeah, anything at all, any changes, then go just get checked out and see what's happening. Hopefully this one will play where the other one didn't. So this is just a little video about how to self-check.
There are no rules for boob checking. Just do whatever feels comfortable. The key is getting to know what normal feels like for you. All you need are your hands, your boobs, and some handy pointers. You can check anywhere, in the shower, on the sofa, even when you're getting dressed. Just make it part of your normal routine. Everybody has breast tissue, all genders, so we should all be checking. You spend more time with your body than anyone else, so you're the best person to know how your boobs usually feel. All boobs are different, and they'll naturally change throughout your life, even each month, so get to know their natural rhythm. Note anything that changes or seems unusual. If one area feels thicker or any new lumps appear, or if you notice a sudden change in size or shape. It's normal for boobs to hurt around your period, but if the pain is different or there more often, then get it checked out. Keep an eye out for changes to the skin, like dimpling or puckering, or any unexplained rashes or redness. And don't forget your nipples. Look to see if they've become pulled in, moved position, or changed shape, or if there's any crusting or liquid coming out. Make sure you're feeling everywhere there's breast tissue, not just your boobs, but right up to your collarbone and under your armpits too, in case there's any swelling. We recommend copping a feel once a month. And if you notice anything that doesn't feel normal, monitor it for a week and book an appointment with your doctor. Sign up for our handy reminders so you remember to check.
There we go. Oops. With a nice little funky bass line as well. So the National Screening Programme, what's occurring? Well, I think most of you will know, maybe you don't, that it's a mammogram, it's an X-ray that gets carried out where one boob's placed into a mammogram machine that comes down. Some people describe it as a little uncomfortable, feels like it's got your boob trapped in a toilet seat, but he's going to take an X-ray of the breast tissue and see what's occurring there. So, you know, a few moments of being uncomfortable for what could be life-changing results, really. And first get invited along at 50 up until 71. We are trialling in Leeds from 47. Some women are getting called up from 47. If you know of somebody that's being called up at 47, then please reassure them that it's not because they think that they're at added increased risk or in a higher risk group. It's merely that this trial's been rolling along. And people get called up every 3 years. And those who are over the screen age, when Megan and myself are out there doing what we do, we'll often hear some of the more vintage residents of Leeds say, "Oh, I don't need to do that now, love. You know, I'm past that." And 1 in 3 breast cancers are diagnosed in women over 70. So it's not that people are past it. It's just that the national screening program stops at that age, you know, and we could sit here and argue all day as to why that is and so on and so forth, you know, whether or not it should be extended. But as we all know, we work in the NHS and it comes down to funding and everything else. So yeah, people can phone up or have a word with their GP and just say, "I'd like a screening, please." So we do keep encouraging people over 70 to keep regularly checking, to keep regularly making sure that everything's tip top. So if there's anyone that's trans, non-binary, and they're unsure of the screening eligibility, would encourage them to speak to their GP or visit. I'll share these slides. Megan will send them out. So there's a link there from Cancer Research UK that will help with that. So anybody that you may work with or anybody on the call in the room that would need to know that. But I would always say, you know, make your GP your first call, unless you don't get on with them. You can pass all the exams and not be very personable, can't you? And I do know some GPs are more difficult than others. So hopefully you do have a good relationship with your GP. And the screening is routine. If there's any changes, don't wait and think, "Oh well, I'm due my cervical in 6 months. I'll wait." If you notice any changes, get yourself sorted out, because that line again, early detection really does save lives. So just thought we'd pop this slide in, which is general cancer symptoms, okay? And these can crop up for all manner of different cancers. But one of them, which is a bit of the holy grail in it for our weight-obsessed culture, is unexplained weight loss. If you are going about your day-to-day life as normal, you're not exercising anymore, you haven't changed your diet, you're not more active, and you start losing weight, you've dropped half a stone. Well, sure, some people would be like high-fiving, you know, someone might say, "Oh, you've lost weight, what's your secret?" And if you think, "I don't know, I'm not doing anything," we'd want to know why, wouldn't we? It's not the normal, as some of us on the call will be all too aware, it's not the normal run of things. We tend to slowly gain weight as we move through life, unless we make a concerted effort to change that. So any unexplained weight loss, because it may well mean that you're not absorbing nutrients as well as you might, so you're still eating the same. The calories going in, calories going out through your activity levels are the same, but you may not be absorbing the calories and nutrients that you need, hence the weight loss, which can also tie in with a lack of appetite. Sometimes people lose their appetite, so of course if you're not eating, then the weight's going to reduce. Any unexplained lump or swelling that stayed with you now, these things can come and go. We can get little knocks and bumps through life, little things come and go. This is something, you know, leading into the pain that will not go away. These are things that are there, that are staying. You know, you've got them now and they're staying. You're kind of incorporating them into your life. We want to get them checked out. So always feeling tired, not that day-to-day thing that we all get from time to time. You know, you didn't sleep well last night, you've had a busy week. You know, them mornings when you wake up and you just think, as you're getting out of bed, I can't wait to get home, to get back to bed tonight. You know, not them days. This is things like you've just got in from work and you've put your bag down and you've sat in the chair, you know, you've not even taken your coat off and you're feeling yourself dropping off. You just come back from the supermarket, before you even put the shopping away, you feel like, I need to sit down. I need a rest. You might find yourself sort of dropping off again. Or sometimes people say, just going upstairs. you know, your day-to-day normal things that didn't bother you 4 or 5 weeks ago are really taking it out of you now. Well, we want to know why. I mentioned blood in, oh no, I didn't. Blood in your wee or poo. I hope that would be a red flag to anyone. You shouldn't be bleeding when you poo or you wee, so that needs to be looked at. Certainly, that can be a sign for bowel and sometimes sort of cervical. But we want to know what's happening there. Changes in your bowel habits. I mentioned earlier that we tend to be creatures of habit when we were talking about periods and things, but it's the same with bowel habits. We all tend to have a little rhythm, a little routine that we're in, and it's different for everyone. So if you notice something's changed, you've clocked it now. It's, oh, well, I don't want to, I normally go before I leave for work. I haven't gone. I'm a bit constipated, or I'm going to the toilet more often. We want to know why that is. And a persistent cough. Now, I know COVID came along and said, hold my beer. When it came to this persistent cough. But it's something that's not going away. You feel fine other than this little cough that you've got now. It's just, you know, someone that might notice it. We're all terrified of coughs at the moment, aren't we? So a friend or family member might mention it to you. So, you know, every time I see you now, you're coughing. And once you've done your lateral flows and your PCRs and you haven't got COVID, but you still got this little cough going on, you want to find out what that's about and encourage others. If you're that person sat across from somebody that you know, and the last couple of times you've seen them, they've got this little cough going on, this little habitual cough, encourage them to go along and get checked out. Chest pain, which can be any pain sometimes when you're breathing. I've just mentioned breathing now, and until I did, I'll hazard a guess, nobody on the call even thought about breathing. You're just getting on with it. It's something that we do. His brain hasn't got time to think about it. It's busy worrying about them other 86 things that we mentioned earlier. So we just do it. And if you find that you're conscious of your breathing because something doesn't feel right, we want to know why that is. It can also be a change in your voice. It can be a bit raspy sometimes. Sorry. Right on cue, blood when coughing. As I put a little cough out there. But yeah, I always think this is quite Dickensian, a bit Scrooge, something like that, a bit kind of Victorian. If you cough and you're bringing up phlegm with blood in it, you know, alarm bells are ringing. We need to get into the doctor. We shouldn't bleed in his lungs. We want to find out why that is. And then, as we mentioned, covered quite extensively, the unusual breast changes. Anything that just seems different, let's get checked out. So, reducing your cancer risk. I mean, we all know nobody wants cancer. Good grief. So, things we can do. I don't think I'm going to tell a clever room like this anything you don't already know. You know, there's no surprise in what I'm going to say. It's all the things we've kind of been brought up. Some people would say it's common sense things, but sometimes sense isn't that common. It's having a balanced diet, you know, and that having that balanced diet lends itself to being a healthy weight. Now, we all vary in that. We know there's different body types. There's ectomorphs, mesomorphs, endomorphs. You know, we all have a general different set to us body. There's those people we know that can come in and say, do you know, I could eat 2 bars of dairy milk every day and I just don't put weight on, you know, and then we can talk about them under our breath later on. But we all have our own sort of way, and keeping a healthy weight is about knowing in yourself, actually, no, I'm pushing myself here. I'm a little overweight, or I don't feel right. And that can come down to not being as active. I'm sat here, sat down, talking to people that are sat down about being more active. We are so sedentary as a species now with how we go on. We're just not designed to do this. You know, I shouldn't have a fridge that I can reach out and touch so close. We had to forage, didn't we? We had to go about. We had to rummage around and chase animals for miles before we could eat. That's what we were designed to do. And we just don't. I mean, over this last 2 years working from home, I worried one point that I was getting a tan off the fridge light. You know, my little head was never out of there because it was just an easy thing to do, and I was sat down. So I know in myself I need to address the weight thing a little. Smoking, I'm not going to spend any time on. I'll be amazed if there's anybody on this call that is sat there and doesn't know that smoking's not good for them. You know, it's probably the single best thing people can do to reduce all manner of health issues. So we would encourage people, if you do smoke, if you are a little cheeky smoker, and you might be, I'm not going to judge you, okay? But if you are, we would encourage you to move on to a vape. studies are showing it's about 96% less harmful. And there was a lot of talk in the papers a while ago about popcorn lung. Dun, 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 popcorn lung. Sounds horrendous, doesn't it? Popcorn lung. Like your lungs are going to go all bubbly and gnarly. But no, this popcorn lung was all about these vapes come in hundreds of different flavors, and the flavor that they created to taste, make the vape taste like buttered popcorn, if that's your bag. The chemical that was used to create that flavor, factory workers that were working in the processing plants making the vape oil, vape fluids and things, if they were exposed to this particular chemical, this popcorn flavored chemical, there seemed to be an increase in some of them presenting with cancer symptoms. But that doesn't sell papers, does it? That's a rubbish story for the Daily Mail, isn't it? But popcorn lung, vaping causes popcorn lung, sounds a lot better. But yeah, if you do smoke, move on to a vape, then reduce your nicotine in your vape in measured doses until you're actually just sucking on a tube of water vapor. And the last one I want to touch on here is alcohol consumption. And I'm sorry for the professional ladies on the call, but you are the risk group at the moment. You know, it's gone mad, hasn't it? Prosecco. Who knew? Who knew that Prosecco was going to come along and do that? Or, you know, Argentinian Malbec, da-da, for your red over winter. Or your Marlborough Sauvignon Blancs. Or your 180 different flavoured gins and everything in between. Drinking's just gone crazy, and it tends to be with professional women. You know, so if you're finding yourself on a Tuesday night doing half a bottle of white wine to watch a place in the sun because you're missing your holidays during COVID, just have a little word, you know, have a little word. Don't kid yourself. That wine will last, you know. That whole nonsense. Oh well, we might as well see it off now. No, go on, we might as well now. You know. He says, oh no, it'll be ruined in morning. Will You know, be honest with yourself. I don't know what you drink, and I'm certainly not sat here going to take your drink away from you. But be honest with yourself and just think, actually, yeah, you know, I could maybe rein it in. My wife got into the habit, anecdotally, she got into the habit of getting in quite a high pressure job. She'd get in from work, she'd pour herself a glass of red wine, and then she'd walk up and down in the kitchen, sort of really just, you know, offloading the day, processing the day, talking to me. I do all the cooking, so I'd be making tea and she'd be walking up and down. But sometimes I'd say, Angela, keep it classy, love, you know, take your coat off. Because she would have put a work bag down, opened it, it's going back a few years now, but opened a bottle of wine, and because it had been cold outside, still had a coat on, walking up and down with it. So it creeps in, doesn't it? And it's Friday, so I'm not gonna say much more on it than that. But just be aware, you're clever people, so just be aware of that. So I'm kind of winding up now. The key messages I hope that I've got across today are: let's get talking about it. Let's have those conversations. Let's feel okay. You know, cancer's not the other C word. It's not something to be hidden away. People shouldn't be embarrassed or feel awkward about it. You know, and we do a number of different talks around this, around the barriers, around the stigma that's attached to it, everything else. There was a movement apparently in America where people wanted to change the star sign, the astrology sign, from cancer to calling it the crab, because they didn't want to be associated with the star sign cancer. You know, such is the myth and fear that it creates in people. I've said it loads of times. I'm going to say it again. Early detection saves lives. How do we detect these things? We use them screening programs. We self-check. We're proactive. Every year there's a number of parents that take their children down to A&E because the child's weeing pink, and they're worried sick that they're bleeding. It's not. It's that they've been eating beetroot, if anyone's ever known that. Would want you, if you weed pink yourself, to be as kind of precious about yourself. Don't just put things off. Don't just leave it. Let's get away from that whole idea. Oh, it'll be okay. I don't want to bother anyone. You know, there's people worse off than me. Get yourself in and get checked out. You might just be saving you and everyone that loves you and cares for you and knows you a whole load of trouble down the line. So yeah, anyone complaining or mentioning that something that, oh God, I'm always tired or whatever, could be iron levels, could be low thyroid function. Get in and get checked out. Encourage them to go. You know, be that supportive friend or family member. But as I mentioned earlier, just be kind about it as well. let's not, let's not steam in and be a little bit gun-ho. And I always had this on the end because it's so true. There's every chance it doesn't. It's not going to be cancer. It may be something else. I've just said there, it may be a low thyroid function. It may be all manner of things. Let's find out. There's an advert on TV at the moment, the Jack in a Box. The guy goes along, he's carrying it around with him. He's worried, is it going to be cancer? Is it going to have the Jack in a Box? Is it not? They open it up, it's not there. It's that kind of thinking. And the easiest way to avoid a cancer diagnosis is not to get diagnosed. And we meet so many people that are in that mindset. If I don't go, I don't know. I'd rather not know. It doesn't mean they haven't got cancer. It doesn't mean that cancer's not going to grow undetected. But that's where their mindset's at. And yeah, if something don't feel right, get along and get that GP. Give them a little bit of ribbing and make sure they help. Shameless plug as I wind it up. Shameless plug. We would love it if you could email Megan. I can't do what Megan would normally now share this in the chat box, but I can't do that because she's not with me today. But all we ask is if you use Facebook, we just ask that people will be a little digital ambassador for us. And all it means is Megan puts out 2 or 3 posts a week where you just click share and it goes on your news feed, and that's it. That's all you do. And I can absolutely vouch for the warm, fuzzy feeling inside that you'll get if you do that. Because who knows, one of your friends is just scrolling through. They've got that letter on the side that got delivered 3 weeks inviting them for the cervical. They keep meaning to get round to it. They just see your little page pass by. That's the thing that makes, oh God, yeah, I'll do that now. They phone up, they catch precancerous cells or they catch stage 1 cervical cancer. That's how it's going to work, so if you could do that, that'd be great. We're also recruiting face-to-face volunteers, so if you ever want to really get involved, that'd be great. But I know you all work and you're busy people. So very quickly, reliable information. I'm sure none of you go to the Daily Mail. Daily Mail once said that left-handedness can cause cancer. It once said bras can cause cancer and soup can cause cancer. You can Google these if you wish to check my claim. It's crazy. These are all great. You've got Joe's Trust. Macmillan are like the Amazon Prime for cancer resources. They're just incredible, really. Cancer Research UK, Copperfield, well, you saw the video, you know what they're all about, and the name pretty much lends itself to what they do, as does, Breast Cancer Now, Bowel Cancer UK, Prostate Cancer UK. And we got, when we set up leedscancer.com, really pleased with that. Really thought that was a little bit of a victory to pull leedscancer.com as a Google search. So if you wanted to look at our little website, also if you've got any experience of living with cancer or going through maybe a cervical screening or a breast screening or anything that might lend itself to writing a little blog piece for us, we would love that. We're really pleased with this website, and we love to update it with real life kind of experiences from people. So yeah, that would be great. But if not, it's no big shakes as well. And you can always check us out there. Look on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So there's some more little cancer support services for people that need some help. Rather than just the information, you've got Leeds Cancer Support, you've got Maggie's, you've got Macmillan, you've got Yorkshire Cancer Support, Robert Ogden Centre down at the hospital as well at St James, for those of us that are on that site. And also Live Through This, which is a charity specifically supporting and advocating members of the LGBTIQ plus community, if indeed it is a community. I was talking to somebody the other day who doesn't like the whole bundle, as if like, oh, if you're not hetero, bang, you're bundled into this. But we're still making progress, so that's a good thing. And that's it. I think that's not badly timed. Left us a little bit of a window for any questions, so I shall stop sharing my screen now and jump back in.
Thank you for that, Dan. I'm just going to stop the recording now as well.